I always wanted to make a horror movie, but if you think about it, it's way more difficult than expected. And I'm not alone with this. We are overrun by horror movies that don't seem to understand what's actually frightening us, and I don't need to tell you where this leads them. But if a talented director understands our basic fears, one scene can define a movie's atmosphere. By that I mean this scene from James Wan's Conjuring 2, starting at minute 43. It goes like this. The protagonist and her daughter sit in the living room, encounter a strange entity in the corridor, the mother follows it in another room, and, well. But right here lays the key to a solid horror movie. The goal? An emotional response from the audience. First, the setting. Where are we? We're in the Warrens' house, not an ordinary family. The Warrens were introduced as Ghostbusters in the first movie, and this movie has spent its first 43 minutes to establish another house of another family at the other side of the country as the scene of crime. It becomes clear the Warrens' house is probably the safest in the movie, without any danger. James Wan underlines this by using exposition shots. We go from bluish darkness to warm colors and broad daylight. Most importantly, a car drives through the frame. Means we're in civilization, among humans, safe, witnesses everywhere. Man, as a social being, is afraid of isolation when he's set apart from his group. Sadly, in most horror movies, the characters literally force their isolation. But take a look at how Wan does it. All of a sudden, we are alone. We don't even know why. The first basic fear, being left behind. And the first time in the scene where our feeling of comfortability in our own home vanishes and uneasiness occurs. But the scene's core is this shot. Now, it's certainly clear that the Warrens' house is not safe. But what makes this shot even more terrifying is that two things are certainly unclear. Firstly, the danger's origin. Quite often, horror movies waste a suspenseful scene by introducing the evil with, for example, wind or flickering lights. But how long has this demon been in your house? The scene that was established as safe shifts. How long have you been watched? Were you ever safe? Did you just drink tea while a killer stood right behind you? The second basic fear, being observed like this unknowing prey of a predator, hand in hand with the invading of our privacy. This is also where the mask killer cliché comes from, with the killer's call that later reveals itself to come out of the victim's house.
We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. A squad car's going over there right now. Just get out of that house.
That extensive that we even feel uncomfortable when a friend tells us he saw us somewhere in public, but we didn't see him. And that's important. What danger? In this shot we're just being watched. The uncertainty about the infiltrator's intention drives us crazy. If the demon just charged at us immediately, that would be suspenseful for like 2 seconds, because we know that our characters are safe in the first 45 minutes and the feeling of danger would vanish. That's why Wan finds another way to create tension. We know nothing. And to strengthen that effect, he uses set design. Wan is obsessed with long, narrow corridors, since they give a clear view on the other side, but simultaneously cover it through the long distance. Basically the equivalent to why masks and dolls frighten us. The stiff, unnatural look contains no human information, and that lack of certainty drives us mad. And now the movie plays with that paranoia, lets us wriggle, while the editing completely breaks with our expectations. Instead of normal jump scares, where an object suddenly comes into frame, it makes a new frame the jump scare itself. For example, here, or here. I think that's brilliant. Nowadays we expect jump scares all the time, but not such a direct confrontation that scares us in new ways. Wan understands that he can use our expectations against us. For example here, where he directly quotes one of his own movies. Without a jump scare that suddenly takes everything away, the fear rises. This one scene defines the movie's entire atmosphere. We are left with this feeling of uneasiness, like being watched, and it doesn't leave anymore. We are used to seek danger in cold and dark colors, because directors seek our fear in cold and darkness. The Warrens' house scene proves that deep, disturbing fear can be created by broad daylight in a well-known, safe environment that seems friendly and warm. Everything we need is good editing, set design, and of course, our basic fears.